I think if I hear you call me Becky one more time, six-pack, I'm gonna pop your tops. All six of them.
Who are you?
Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another review. There's another paid request, and this is for John. And it's for the 2004 film The Phantom of the Opera. Now, The Phantom of the Opera, I had never seen this film before. I had heard of it, but I did not realize Joel Schumacher directed this, which was interesting. And definitely off the beaten path. Just Joel Schumacher... You looked at his career, he directed a lot of different type of films, like from DC Tab to The Lost Boys to a film like Flatliners, Falling Down, 8mm, A Time to Kill, Phone Booth, Tigerland, Batman Forever. Did pretty different types of films, including this, which of course is a musical, Andrew Lloyd Webber. It's not a horror film. It's more of a romance, little bit of a thriller aspect, little bit. But it's definitely less of the horror that you would see in other iterations of Phantom of the Opera back in the day. Lon Chaney, that type of stuff. I'll say this about the film. Because if you've seen any iteration of Phantom of the Opera, you know the story. There's a phantom, there's a girl, wants the girl to sing his music, in love with the girl wants nothing to do with him because she's in love with someone else. A little bit of murder. At one point, that damn chandelier is going to crash. And it is much more of a musical. It is a long film. I would say that's the biggest detriment to me is it's 2 hours and 24 minutes. There's no reason it needs to be this long. It just doesn't. I don't think there's enough story there to make this a 2.5 hour movie. I just don't. That's why there's not many other iterations of Phantom of the Opera that's over like 2.5 hours long. Because again, there's not much story there to have this. With that said, I didn't mind the film. I didn't mind the film for a couple of reasons. Number one, this was an early role from Gerard Butler. Apparently they wanted someone like Hugh Jackman, and he was going to do it, but then things came up. So they got, apparently Joel Schumacher or someone saw, I believe it was Dracula 2000, in which Gerard Butler played Dracula. They go, okay, who's this guy? And again, this is before 300. This is before Gerard Butler would do films like Law-Abiding Citizen, all this other stuff. And most of the time when he talks, it's him singing. And he's actually not that bad. Not that bad in the singing. Better than I ever could have. So it was interesting for him to play the Phantom. And this other guy, I did not grow up with Andrew Lloyd Webber's musical. I did not grow up with it. I didn't watch the stage plays. I didn't watch any of that. So I honestly didn't know much about the music. And this was really good music, I gotta say. That also helps too with a musical. When, for me, I don't go out of my way to see musicals. I just don't. But when I start really getting into the music, that does help my enjoyment in the movie. Whether that be Little Shop of Horrors, whether that be Rocky Horror Picture Show, or even Dreamgirls. I'm like, I really like the soundtrack. I'm really enjoying the songs. I thought people who sang did their jobs very well. And the music, I like that the music, because I assume the music would be very much opera, but there's a bit of a, it seemed like there was a bit of a synthesizer tone to it, which I rather appreciated. I don't know if that's the correct term, but something about the music really appealed to me. I'm like, okay, it's not fully, I was thinking of the, what my mind had as opera music. It's operatic, but it has a synthesizer tone to it. I'm like, wow, this is actually not bad music. This is pretty good. So the music, and I'm not even going to try to do the music. Yeah, I will. Believe me, your ears will bleed. So I like. It was interesting to see Gerard Butler, very different early type of role. The music is rather good. And Joel Schumacher did a pretty decent job on the visuals. Because the way the movie begins and ends, it's in black and white. Where there's this funeral, and a very interesting visual where it's like 1917, I forget the actual year, somewhere in the 1900s. And these characters are older, they're at a funeral, and this whole opera place, this palace that throughout the years was showcased all the shows of the operatic qualities, run down, broken down, torn to pieces. But then Joel Schumacher does an interesting, cool way of doing a transition of the past, of this flashback, which most of the film becomes, where the chandelier that's been on the ground, people are pulling it up, and as it's pulled up, Joel Schumacher does this swirling cameras, and just how the more it's pulled up, the more this color comes in like a wind, and just the color starts seeping into everywhere, into the seats, the walls, everything's like gone back to being healthy and young and vibrant and fixed up and not broken down. I'm like, gee, this is an interesting way of showcasing. There's going to be a flashback. The rest of the film is going to tell what happened in the past. Instead of just having a simple fade to black going to this is a very, like I said, artistic, visually interesting way of going from black and white, they're older, to the past. Just the way it's done and the music that all meshed in. And there's also throughout, like Joel Schumacher, he definitely wanted to make this a big, grandiose movie. I believe the film was successful at the box office. It seemed like it made a decent amount of money. I guess people who don't know the story, this theater manager is retiring. It's getting new ownership. One of the young people helping with it is Patrick Wilson, who would be the star of... he was in The Conjuring, Conjuring movies. He's been quite a bit of other stuff too. And you have this girl who... they're going to go with this other girl who's going to be a singer, and is actually played by Minnie Driver. But then she doesn't want to do it because there's these stories about this phantom, this ghost, whoever, and I'm not going to deal with that anymore, so I'm going to leave. Oh, we're shit out of luck. oh, well, but there's this young lady. Give her a chance. And she sings beautifully, so then she gets center stage. And this backstory about how the reason she learned to sing so wonderfully is because she would hear many times this other voice, as she kind of trained herself to be as similar to that voice as possible, and that voice happens to be the Phantom, who's in love with her, takes her to the lair. Again, if you've seen Phantom of the Opera, imagine that, but a bit more of a love story aspect. And even like when you see the Phantom, the way he looks, I didn't think he looked that horrific. He didn't look that bad. I mean, it's a little bit, fucked up, but it's not like in Lon Chaney. It's half the face, and it's not. If you think of that skull-like feature from back to the day, that's not it. It's not Robert Englund's Phantom of the Opera either. For those who don't know, Robert Englund was in type of version of it, much gorier, horrific version in the late 80s. And there were other people recognized. For example, one of the people who's the owner, the new owner, he was Vincent Cadby, not Canby. Vincent Cadby, that's the villain in Ace Ventura When Nature Calls. I forget the actor's name, but I always remember the character's name was Vincent Cadby. But I mean, I like the Ace Ventura films, at least the first two. So I'm like, oh, that's the bad guy in Ace Ventura 2, When Nature Calls. But, okay, with that, there's stuff you could cut out. I didn't need these owners singing about where's this girl and where she's at, and I don't think we needed that. We didn't need that whole song. I mean, I'm just thinking like I think there's stuff you could cut out and make it a much slimmer pace. I get it. It's Andrew Lloyd Webber's musical. He wants a representation. I mean, Joel Schumacher's the director, but it's very much based on Andrew Lloyd Webber. He had a big hand in it as well, so they want to put the songs in there and make the songs as grandiose as possible. But I mean, I'm just saying, as a viewer, I just see stuff that could be edited out. Like this whole group of people singing about the masquerade, and they're doing this sort of dance as they're fans. The women are fanning these little fans they have, and it's a masked ballroom. I was going to say Ballroom Brawl, but that'd be a different movie. There's a bunch of people with the masks on, dancing in the ballroom. It's like, I don't think you need that. Like, again, I think there's stuff you could edit that doesn't need to be a 2-hour, 27-minute. And let's say if you're not into the music, and you don't give a shit about Gerard Butler, you'll probably be bored with it. To me, again, I appreciate the visual Joel Schumacher was doing. May he rest in peace. Gerard Butler, again, being a pretty decent singer, and the music, although it was rather good. So I would say if you're at all interested in musicals, if you're at all interested in seeing an adaptation of the Phantom of the Opera play, or again, if you're like me and it's like, hey, cool, Gerard Butler, let's see what he can do. Curiosity. And again, I think he pulled it off fairly well. And like I said, the music was really good, so at least if I wasn't enjoying if I'm like, okay, the story's a bit bogged down, at least I can listen to the music, and then for the most part enjoy it. I thought the music was, like, even the song Masquerade, it wasn't a bad song, but it's like, this is part that's not needed. That could be cut out. As I do think there's stuff that could be made for a less fattening movie. Because again, 2 hours and 27 minutes is a bit pushing it for this kind of film. That's just me. But other than that, yeah, I didn't mind it. Didn't mind it. I didn't compare it to the horror version of Phantom of the Opera. I like that there's little differences here and there, spoilers. For example, there's a little bit of backstory to the Phantom. That he was a freak as a kid, and he would get attacked and stuff thrown at him, and this little girl helped him escape. Back in the day, or even later on when he's driving her down and Patrick Wilson's following. And this is spoilers, but she kisses him, and that kind of makes him wake up as to what he's doing and lets her go. And I think she even gives him a ring. So she does, even though technically he did murder about 2 or so people. So he's not really a good guy. He did murder, was it 1 or 2? I want to say it was 2 people. Maybe it was 1. 1 or 2. Maybe he's not really a good guy, so I don't know if he really... It does seem that he deserves some kind of more of a comeuppance, but what do I know? But yeah, it's not, again, if you're into musicals, it's not a bad film. Joel Schumacher's direction, the music, interest, curiosity piece for Gerard Butler. It's not a film I would watch much because of his running time. And like I said, I don't think there's enough story for that bit. So there are points where I found it dull. There are points I'm like, okay, can you fast forward this bit here? Which it is, that makes it a one-up with the play, because if you're watching the play, you can't fast forward. But if you're watching this, you can fast forward through this part. So again, I wouldn't say I loved it, but it was okay. I didn't mind it. Didn't mind it for what it was. The other actors, Patrick Wilson, the late, I forget the actress's name. Let me get one real quick. Emmy Rossum as Christine. And Simon Callow, that's the guy who was in Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls. That's the actor's name, Simon Callow. And he's one of the new owners of this place. Emmy Rossum, she's the female lead. Did a good job. Very solid voice as a singer. Be in Poseidon in 2006. Dragon Ball Evolution in 2009. And she was in Cold Pursuit, the Liam Neeson film, in 2019. Yeah, I did not mind her work on it. Just look at a little bit at the production. Sorry, Warner Brothers purchased the film rights in 1989, granting Andrew Lloyd Webber total artistic control. They hired Joel Schumacher to direct. Oh, because Andrew Lloyd Webber had been impressed with Schumacher's use of music in The Lost Boys. Interesting. That's how he got the job. It was supposed to start in 1990. But then Andrew Lloyd Webber got a divorce, and that fucked a lot. Because things were tied up in settlements, who had the rights to what. In February 1997, Schumacher considered returning, but eventually dropped out in favor of Batman Unchained. Oh, I guess that's the film that never... That's the film he wanted to do that didn't happen, I guess. Runaway Jury, Dreamgirls. Well, I guess he was going to do those, but those never came into play. At the time, the studio wanted to cast John Travolta as the lead. Or maybe Antonio Banderas. Hugh Jackman was originally cast for the role, but he faced scheduling conflicts because of Van Helsing. So that's what it was, Van Helsing. Huh. Katie Holmes was going to be the lead Lady Christine. She was later replaced by Anne Hathaway, but she dropped out because of production schedule of the film overlapped with The Princess Diaries 2. And then they got, I'm fine with that because I'm not a big Anne Hathaway guy. So Emmy Rossum, I thought, did a good job for what she was supposed to do. And yeah, the film did decent at the box office. It did, but critics didn't like it. Which I understand some people saying it seemed rather dull. But yeah, I didn't mind it. I don't think it was that bad of a film. But yeah, the movie made... seeing how much it made in the U.S. $154 million worldwide. It's not too bad, actually. And, let's see, what does it say box office-wise? Sorry, I'm just curious about it. And this is like after Joel Schumacher had directed Phone Booth. And I think after this he did The Number 23. Okay, maybe it wasn't that big of a hit. Okay, I thought it was bigger. $70 million budget, $51 million in the US, but then $103 million international, so $154 million worldwide. So I don't know, maybe it didn't make money. I don't know. Don't they say you have to make double your budget to maybe break even? So, I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying when you cost $70 million, I thought it was a bigger hit. I was wrong on that. There you go. So there. Oh well. But yeah, with that said, I can't think of what else to say. Either way, thanks for watching. Take care. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.